Hi all, dear pals. I'm Olga Chebikina. Lena Nikolai's here. She's the architect of the Matrix. This is the section New Knowledge. We have every right to call things by their names. Why do people often not correspond to their age psychologically?
Due to their incapacity to absorb what facilitates their maturation, namely the love and care bestowed upon them by their mother and father, their growth and development were impeded. That is all. When individuals come to me and say, "Oh, I have already worked through my mother," I say, "Okay, good. Here is your mother. Kindly accept some love from her." Unfortunately, they are currently unable to do so. It is extremely simple. Take love from your mother. They are unable to. It will not always be there because you treat your mother or father poorly. Sometimes we save our parents, and then we think that if we take something from them, they will not have enough. And then you find yourself in a position where you become a parent to your own parent. In other words, you step into the role of a grandmother or grandfather in the family system. And in these relationships, when you know better how your mom should live, you might feel embarrassed by your mom. You put yourself in her shoes and start telling your parent how things should be done because they are doing something wrong. Yet they did raise you. However, there are, of course, instances of significant violence within the family. If we discuss in the context of the Matrix, it is the type of training that we required for our needs. We have contracts with our parents in particular, and you know what's most interesting that I discover when working with people? Those individuals who have the greatest love for themselves will also have the most dreadful experience. Quickly determine an individual's psychological age. I am conducting a test. So I enter the individual's field and can perceive that through resonance. So interacting. I work well with the field. If you know what setup is, right? You have soul movement, it's called, in the Gall process when you enter the field and you start feeling it pulls me there, it pulls me here. I realized I have a good sense of direction in the field. And even though I can, of course, cling to my illusions, I'm not saying this is scientifically proven. We can state this is a placebo. You just need to merely tune into your feelings. Now, the word simply, we will analyze this emotional involvement. It indicates that you possess additional resources to verify the true occurrences in your life. And my students, I often receive thank you letters. They say, "Lena, I don't know how I lived without this." Because I suddenly realized that we were like blind kittens before. But now, at least I have a clue. You often don't even realize yourself that you flew out of something or something flew into you.
You entered the field, you saw, you determined the psychological age of people, and so on. How to be your own person. There are people who are really finely tuned to themselves. They may not have the knowledge and tools, but they can sense when something is off and seek help from a specialist. Can I assess my maturity based on life experiences or internal feelings to determine if I am not mature enough without external guidance? How to handle this issue?
If you experience fear when thinking about something, you are in a state of being scared. And this frequently occurs. If you are afraid to say no, if you are afraid of criticism and judgment, these are the identifiers of the child, because when it comes to a child, what does he really want? Child, look, the beige level of spiral dynamics, I need something tangible, something I can touch. To touch, yes, tangible. And then what do you need? What do you need? Boobs in a bottle? What you're surviving. You need something that provides you with security right here, like your mom holding you, yeah. And then these youngsters, they are highly fixated on tangible things that can be touched or felt physically. For them, this whole story, with spaceships, brothers from the vastness of the universe, even in the context of let's explore, they are uninterested, not suitable. Give me money. Often people come and say, "Give me money, make it so that I have a lot of money." And often all these childhood deficits they try to buy for themselves, security, love, recognition, all of this, it's just a childhood story. When the child was traumatized, when he realized that he needed a lot of money to compensate for it, and preferably not work anymore afterwards, because suddenly it will end, and then I will definitely die. A story of the fear of death.
If you catch yourself having moments like that, then you're not adults.
Not adults. How do you mature? Good question. You see, you need to receive the love of mother and father. What do we need for this? We want to take love, but we can't. Why? Because when we look, we have a bunch of different projections. We witness toxicity. Remember, I demonstrated it to you? Take a look here. This is your mother. If you observe your mother, can you feel love? And what actions do you need to take in response? This is an amazing story. Zhenya Terabinin taught it to you. Therefore, you must unload all of this toxicity here and simply eliminate it. Remove it, and then you will witness a true mother, a true element from which you can extract love. That's one. The same thing needs to be done with dad. With dad, it's a different process. You need father's will alongside love. If you didn't take the will from your father, you won't find it elsewhere. Then you can't say, I am free to take on this world, to accept the father's will. And you know, there's such a cool dynamic there. I always see when the stories between dad and God resonate with each other. If someone has issues with God, they'll have issues with their dad. That's how the matrix works. If they have issues with the system, they have issues with their mom. If he is not a systematic person, he cannot build a system. Why? The matrix, the mother, that's a system. When we mature in our mother's womb, she provides for us like a system. And then when we come out through the mother system, the father creates in the mother. As a spermatozoon, a spiritual element, it impregnates the mother, and she develops both the divine story when the light enters the matrix and mother manifest in the manifested world. All models are there. And then, look, the story about the blue level of spiral dynamics, when you need to enter the system, you go work through the system. That is this skill. It is needed. Without love from your mother, you're trapped in the system. In short, working at the same job for 20 years becomes impossible to quit. Why? Because it's mom. Why do people want their own business but never dare to start one? You are unable to construct a system for others to fit into. You did not acquire that from your mother. Likewise, if you didn't receive love from your mother, what will you give to your children? You know, I also lived by the list of what a good mom should be like. There was a moment when my boyfriend gave me an expensive car. Well, she was simply one of a kind, and I couldn't mount her. I was frightened because individuals were capturing images of me due to her uniqueness. And at that point in time, I simply thought, darn, I am unable to articulate my thoughts in any way. You have the ability to do it, but the energy cost involved in accomplishing it will be of a colossal magnitude. You constantly need to be in a state of acute stress. That is, not some stress that is comfortable for you, but you are constantly in acute stress. Well, and it'd be cool if you're an adrenaline junkie, if you ski, if you ride a motorcycle. I've done all, even skydive. So what? I sought death. The story is about how people often confuse life and death. The insensitivity I was talking about, to feel life, you had to be close to death. I could be bold with serious, well, scary people. So in order for you guys to grow up, you need to make this distinction. You need to take love, accept mom's love, accept dad's love and dad's will. And then you need to look at what I call along the timeline, see where your attention got stuck. And frequently, attention becomes fixated on things like certain childhood trauma, the fact that dad didn't buy a kitten when I was younger, or we moved from one city to another, or even when you started university, for example, you had some inner discomfort. Your attention remained there. Often the story is related to a sudden weaning from the breast, like they gave the baby to the grandmother at 4 months or something like that. So it always leaves an impression on children. It is a highly intriguing observation when you witness how individuals become trapped in these phases of their lives. And look, what an interesting story. Right now, my son is going through it. He is 2 years old. He is going through this period where he has to learn to say no and where he has to understand what is his, mine, yours, ours, common, and others. Share. And what do children hear in childhood? Give your toy to Masha. And then he says, well, if they take away my toy, then why should I do anything at all? I don't want toys. You know, he wants candy. Look, he reached for candy. Did you give it to him? He says, well, I don't need your candy. People in their lives are adults. They live and they understand they don't need candies. They once made a decision, which they don't remember, to give up candy. And since then, they constantly refuse candy in their life. And this is such a multi-level, multitasking drama in which we struggle, not understanding and not seeing, because there is no perspective.
How do you know you're an adult and everything is okay with you? What are the principles used for making decisions by these individuals? How do they appear?
An adult person said that if he wants something, he goes and does it. If he doesn't do it, he works on his mistakes and looks for a solution to the problem. An adult does not shift their responsibility onto others, responsibility for their own feelings. You may, of course, not adapt my illusions to yourself, but if you want to live happily, I highly recommend it to you. Well, not me, but find someone who can prescribe it for you. Everything in life, everything in the matrix happens for love, out of love, and regarding love. And in the event that you discover this love, regardless of what occurred, this soul was attempting to instruct you. You find this love, healing happens inside you. You will never be in reflection. When you sit, chase, and talk about your trauma, you will unload the trauma, unload, it will accumulate again. When you reach such a level of intoxication, you can't anymore, you went to throw up, you felt better. But he did not remove intoxication from his system. And here lies the problem, because of course it will all be dulled, but this is a colossal time. Who has time for this? I don't.
Our comments are always open to you. I recommend considering, contemplating, and writing. Of course, it really helps, when I already published it. It's a completely different level of recognition of certain things. At what age do you periodically discover yourself in your life? And the same question, so that it's not just hard for them. Recall the times when you discovered yourself not behaving your age in specific circumstances.
I made a comparison between myself and my brother. That's one point. Now let's move on to the second point. I had a story. I can recall there was some sort of celebration possibly happening on September 1st. The teacher, whom I really loved, asked me to dress nicely, and I came in some of my usual clothes. I remember the disappointment on her face. I vividly remember my attention got stuck there. And this story, you see, to get through this, I'll give you a little hint now. You need to agree with that experience. You say it straight, I agree with that experience and its price. It's crucial to always restore balances. We often get stuck because the balances aren't set. And you just talk it out. I establish balances with this person, with everything related to it, and I take my parts and my attention from there. I am growing up.
Dear, thanks and see you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks, pals.